Welcome to Velocity Training. In this video, we will introduce Velocity and discuss what it can do for you in your lab environment, and we'll also discuss Velocity's user personas. Velocity is an all-in-one lab management and test execution platform. It is built to make your lab more efficient by automating testbed setup, maximizing resource utilization, and enabling automated and manual testing. As a Velocity user or admin, you may be asking, what's in it for you? Velocity tracks your lab's physical and virtual inventory, allowing users to reserve what they need and enabling efficient resource sharing between users, groups, physical locations, and even organizations. It can set up your testbed for you, automating things like Layer 1 and Layer 2 switching, device configurations, and virtual orchestration. Tests and on-demand tasks can be automated and integrated into your Velocity workflow. Together with the ability to interact with devices directly from Velocity, it can offer a single location to set up, configure, test, and experiment in your environment. The interactive sessions are captured so that work and troubleshooting sessions can be tracked and documented. Repetitive tasks can be replayed and easily automated. And finally, reports generated from automated testing are stored and managed within Velocity, making it easy to track testing results over time. Here we see 4 lab philosophies. Velocity can benefit and improve efficiency for each approach or help move existing labs towards the self-service model. On the left, we have a static model where each group would have their own dedicated resources and may have a mix of static and dynamic testbeds. As we move to the right, we have a federated model where we introduce resource sharing between groups and use dynamic testbeds for the majority of use cases. This allows for higher resource utilization, lower cost, and more flexibility. Moving further to the right, we have our self-service lab models. These labs are heavily automated and treat lab resources as one pool to be shared throughout your company or even with external users. This allows for the most efficient use of resources and enables low and zero-touch solutions. For this training, we have modeled a lab after one you might find at a network equipment manufacturer. This lab uses a federated model and is in the process of bringing all development and QA groups into the managed lab. We will assume the role of the router QA team, which was among the first groups to adopt Velocity. Lately, our team has primarily been responsible for testing incremental updates to our router's operating system. Let's go to Velocity to look at a typical workflow we'd use to test a software update release candidate. We'll start by logging into our Velocity as an admin, and then we're going to take a look at our topologies in the library menu. You can see we have a number of topologies ready here. We're going to take a look at the regression testbed we have set up for the router that we're going to be testing. Our topology has a few devices in it. We have a content server that hosts some external files that we use in one of our Layer 7 tests. We have a cyber flood used for security testing. You can see that each device has a label as well as an IP address. Each device also has ports associated with it. Connections here are going to be dynamic Layer 2 connections, meaning that when we reserve the topology, Velocity is going to automatically pick available ports that will make the connections that are required by our topology. Now let's take a look at some of the automation assets that we can run in our lab environment. Here you can see a list of test cases that are available to us, and we'll look at a run list that we have created, which is just a list of tests you can execute one after another. So we have our full Router OS regression suite here, and that includes these 3 tests that you see on the screen now. The first test is going to verify some basic administrative commands. The second test is going to be a security test using our cyber flood product. And the third test is going to be a traffic test using the Spirent Test Center, where we're going to run some traffic and make sure that no frames are dropped and that the expected throughput is reached. We could go ahead and run the run list right here from the screen, but if we reserve the topology first, we can do a few extra configuration steps. So I'm going to go to our topologies menu. I'm going to click the reserve button on our regression testbed topology. And if I click the resources tab, then I can find our device under test resource, and I can upload a golden config and the image of the firmware that we want to test. Now I'll submit our reservation. Velocity will make sure all the resources we requested are available. We can see that the reservation is activating, meaning the config and firmware that we chose are being applied to our resources, and any other startup tasks that are assigned to the other resources are happening. And now our reservation is active, so we can run our run list against it. So I'm going to find the run list menu and just click run on our run list. I'm going to assign the topology that we chose and then choose the existing reservation that we have. I'm going to make sure the parameter is correct here, the correct firmware that we're testing against is selected, and then I'm just going to click run. Now if I click last results, we'll see the results that have happened in the past and the one that we're currently executing, which is what we're interested in. So I'll click on that and we can see that the run is completed. So if we want to see the results of the individual tests, I'm going to click on run list items, and then I can click on each individual test report, and we can see a lot of good details about the test. So importantly, we have the pass-fail result, and we'll see an image of the topology as it was reserved, and then we'll see all the details about the execution. Then scrolling down, we'll see any execution messages generated by the test. That gives us an idea of what the test did, and if there were any error messages, those would show up here as well. Now let's take a quick look at the different types of users that can use Velocity. First, we have administrators. Admins are responsible for creating and managing inventory, managing users and user groups, and configuring automation. System-level admins can create, delete, and modify objects throughout Velocity and change some application settings. Users can reserve resources and topologies, execute tests and automated tasks, review test reports, and, if enabled, create, edit, and publish topologies. These are some other more specialized user personas. The super admin can enable, disable, and manage other admins on top of all the privileges a regular admin would have. The super admin username and password is set in Velocity's instance configuration pages. Resource group admins can create, modify, and delete resources within their assigned resource group. Lab technicians are designated to accept and complete work orders within the manual cabling workflow. Lab managers can manage lab technicians and assign work orders to them. Conflict managers are responsible for resolving reservation conflicts.